What's happening, people? It's your girl Mina. Welcome back to the channel. You already know what it is. Big up to everyone that's locked in. Listen, guys, make sure you hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe because today we're joined by a very special guest, the one and only Alice. Firstly, Alice, congratulations on 100k because that's no small feat. That's no small feat. So congratulations. Off the back of a win. Oh, a win. It feels like it should have been a win. No, it feels like it should have been a win, but it was a draw at Anfield. How are you feeling, Alice, and how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm feeling good because we actually gave 100% versus Liverpool. We did enough to win that game. I was almost disappointed at the end of it that we didn't win that game because I was thinking that if someone had said to me before the game we get a draw, I'd be gassed. But the fact that actually we had the opportunity to win the game, I was a bit like, oh, but I feel much better now about United that we just got that point and there was some fight there. And, I just hope we see that more, to be honest. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Doesn't that annoy you more though? Because Amram said it after the game that like the players have it in them to perform like this, but we've just lost 3 on the bounce coming into this. And I kind of share that same sentiment.
Yeah, and I liked that Amarin said that because it showed a little bit about his mentality as well, and that he hasn't got that loser mentality, and we need that because mentality is a big problem. We need a manager with that kind of mentality. But he's right; it's like if you can do that versus Liverpool and you can work that hard versus Liverpool, why are we not seeing that other games? Like, why do you need to be up for certain games? And I also think, something that we do is sometimes if we concede a goal, we go a bit shaky and we concede another one right after, like the Tottenham game, for example. But we conceded the goal and we bounced back. Like, I think Bruno put in a proper captain's performance, even as just like a leader, it was there. Martinez, who's been a bit poor lately, put in a leadership performance. But it's like, we need to see this more because we're Manchester United and we can't just be doing this for the Arsenals. We've got to be doing this for every game. So I completely agree with you and Amarin.
It's interesting though, because obviously going into the game, I saw people wanting the game to get... I can't believe fans wanted the game to get cancelled. That's how low morale is in the... We're talking about mentality in the squad. The morale in the fan base is even worse because people wanted the game to get cancelled. But I felt weirdly confident going into the game. I didn't think we'd win, but I did think we could get a draw just because I feel like against Liverpool, bar the 3-0 loss this season at Old Trafford, over the last 2 seasons, United have seemed to be up for it every time they play Liverpool, whether it was the FA Cup, whether it was at Old Trafford at the end of last season, even when we went away to Anfield last season, and I know that Ten Hag parked the bus and he put 11 guys behind the ball, but it kind of got a result, and this one was definitely a better performance-wise, it was much better. There was identity on the pitch. I feel like you could see United targeting Trent for about 70-80 minutes until Conor Bradley came on, and if they weren't on that side and they were on the right hand side, they tried to do the little do a triangle of kind of possession and switch the ball over to Trent's side again to target him. So like you said, I'm happy with the game. I definitely feel like United could have got more, but also it's just a nice feeling just because I was talking to people that I know that are Liverpool fans and they were talking 4-0, 5-0, how many can we put past you guys, given the fact that this season I think Liverpool, out of all the top 6 teams, it's only Liverpool that have actually beaten United the worst, 3-0. We've lost 2-0 to Arsenal, we beat City, we drew to Chelsea, so it's only Liverpool that's actually they've got our number this season. But what did you think of Garnacho's cameo?
Do you know what? I was impressed with his cameo because I think he's probably one of the players that's disappointed me the most lately. He had, good 3-4 games at the start of the season, and I felt that when he was coming off the bench and his minutes were being managed, he looked right. And then all of a sudden, he just sort of became untouchable, left wing every game, and I don't think it was doing him any favours. And then Amarin's coming, and I was worried because Garnacho, I think, does his best when he's quite far out wide and he can come inside. And I thought with Amarin, it's a bit more of a discipline role, a bit more of a central role, more sort of a creative role. And he hasn't been particularly good under Amarin. But obviously, he's a young lad in an unstable environment. So I'm more than willing to give him that kind of patience as long as he works hard and gets his head down. And I think he's obviously had that bit of discipline, been on the bench 7 games in a row. I've been concerned about him lately, but I thought the way that he came on, obviously Trent was gettable, but we needed, I think, a little bit of a pace outlet on that left-hand side, when we realised that Trent was really gettable. And I think that he had a really good game, got in behind, not just the assist, but actually his all-round decision-making looked better. So I think I was really happy with Garnacho's cameo because I think it's little steps if we can get him back into form and sort of confidence as well. He looks sort of low on confidence.
Yeah, I think Amarim is dealing with the Garnacho situation quite well. I don't think it's as kind of big as the Rashford thing, but you saw him kind of getting both of them getting dropped from the derby. You know, I don't think he's actually started a Premier League game since. Every time it's just been coming off the bench, and I'm kind of in the boat of where does Garnacho fit in the system, because like you said, he's not really a traditional inside player. He doesn't really have, I think, the abilities for playing as an inside forward, because I think you have to have close control of the ball. You have to be quite technical on the ball, whereas he's more of a traditional wide player. Like you said, someone that, you know, plays off the wide channels, can come into his right foot. But we've seen him over the last kind of games not cutting in and trying to take a shot all the time, but also going down the line and trying to put a ball across the box, which I think is how Ahmad scored. It was a Garnacho. They didn't give him the assist because I think apparently it took a deflection of Konate. So FPL didn't give him the assist. But to me, that is an assist. And that's what you want to see, I think, when players get dropped and they come back into the team. If there is a way back into the team for you, whether it's through, you know, making appearances here and there, coming off the bench, etc., just have a decent performance. I do think the judgment on Garnacho over the last couple of weeks has been a bit harsh because he's not been starting. And when he comes on, it's normally for about 15-ish minutes. It's the Garnacho that we were used to when we first kind of integrated him into the first team, in terms of, you know, he's not starting, he's coming off the bench. But people are being, I think, a little bit harsh with him. Now, when he starts a game and he drops a stinker, and the criticism is definitely kind of warranted there. But I think with the City game, I don't think there's anyone that came off the bench for me that I wasn't happy with what they gave. Joshua Zirkzee had 7 minutes, I think, or 8 minutes in the game, and people still tried to find something to complain about with him. Obviously, Lenny Yoro came off the bench, made a last-ditch tackle. I think he got back in 8 seconds in that particular play when he's up the pitch.
Insane.
It was ridiculous. Like it's one thing being quick, but I realize he's got really long legs, so it makes it a lot easier as well to kind of recover the kind of the grass space. But yeah, I was happy with the Anfield performance, and I'm not as optimistic as you going forward in terms of, because you know it's like United to get a draw at Anfield and then lose to Southampton or Fulham. like with the derby, United beat City at the Etihad for the first time in God knows how long, to then go on and drop 3 in a row in the Premier League. It's just like United. So I'm not getting my hopes up just yet. I'm just one game at a time. That's
the way to be, because I get my hopes up. Every time I get my hopes up, I'm like, oh, we found it. And then every time I'm disappointed, I think, oh, wait. I remember there was even a period last season where I think Ten Hag won 4-5 on the bounce in January. Leach had just come back into the squad. I was like, oh, the season's going to change. And then we were just crap. And it's like, I need to not get my hopes up. But the minute I've got something to be positive about, I'm like, oh, this is it. You know, like he's had more time with them at training. You can see the system, the players are working hard. Maybe the confidence is there. But you're absolutely right. You just don't know what United side's going to show up. I think we've got some good players, and we should be capable of giving Arsenal a difficult game. And one thing I've noticed is, in those big games under Amorim, since Ten Hag's gone, we have been in them. Like, you know, when we went to the Emirates, it was 0-0 at half-time. Arsenal didn't have a sniff, but ultimately we had a corner mistake in us. You know, we're in the City game. Even the Tottenham 4-3 loss, we were very much in that game under Amorim. And then the Liverpool game, we're in it. It's not been, other than the Newcastle game, which we didn't have Bruno Nagate, which I think would have made a massive difference. And then when Maino came on, the game was different. I don't think there's been a game where I think we were just fully, like, completely outplayed from, like, do you know what I mean? Or maybe the Bournemouth game as well.
I feel Bournemouth. Bournemouth. But you're right. In the last, it would definitely be Bournemouth game.
Like, they have somewhat showed up when we've got that defensive stability. It's just we've got mistakes in us. We've got mistakes in us.
The thing is, my biggest worry isn't even like the defense most of the time. My worry is that United just won't be able to score. That is where my worry comes from. I feel like in Liverpool game, for example, the back line, I wasn't worried about it because I saw little elements and patterns. Like, one thing I realized is Amorim likes his kind of centre-backs aggressive to get tight to their guy, and Leach was doing it a lot. And when he was doing it and he's vacating space, Kobbie was dropping in. And then on the other side, if De Ligt did it, Ugarte would drop in. And I don't think De Ligt was quite as aggressive as Leach was, but he was still kind of doing it. And when I see those kind of moments, I feel a bit relieved because I'm like, okay, so we've got kind of a game plan defensively. But what is our game plan in front of goal when, you know, Højlund is missing another one-on-one chance at Anfield, and that actually leads perfectly to the next conversation, which is the transfer window. Obviously, day 7 of the transfer window, and I'm saying day 7 because I haven't seen anyone sign someone yet. So I know it might be a quiet. No, I don't think any English team have signed someone yet in the January transfer window.
Wolves were linked to a centre back from France.
Yeah, that's it. I seen like Chelsea's linked to like bringing Mark Gahey and Chalobah back, etc. But again, it's just links, and United are linked to quite a lot of stuff. I feel like there's as much news on outgoings potentially as there is on incomings. But I'm going to start with the potential incomings, because in the last about 24, 48 hours, United have been linked to 3 different forwards. Let's just say that 3 different forwards in Victor Osimhen, Dusan Vlahovic, and Randall Kolo Muani. Is there any of those 3 that you feel like United should go for? And if so, why?
I think the best name out of those 3 for me is Victor Osimhen.
Yeah.
I think, he's obviously a very good player, still got a good age as well. I think he's like 26.
Yeah, he's 20, yeah, he's still in his, he hasn't even reached his peak.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. He's quick, he can run in behind. I think he's always wanted that Premier League move. My only concern around Victor Osimhen is he's someone that's very good at getting on the end of crosses and getting like good with his head, and we're crap at crossing. And I think if you get a left wing back that's good at crossing, then Victor Osimhen for me would be that guy. If you could get Nuno Mendes and Victor Osimhen in, I'm not really going to have any complaints whatsoever. Vlahovic is one I'm skeptical about. I like him. He was some talent, but he's on 400k a week. Like, I was like, yeah, we can't pay that for him. That's why Juventus want to get rid of him. He's not a bad player, and I think profile-wise he's got similarities to Højlund, which Amram would like. I think Vlahovic for the right wage to take. Kolo Muani is one of those where if we let Rashford go on loan and we generally cannot afford the other 2, then I'm like, maybe for numbers, but I don't particularly rate Muani. It's very much we haven't got no money because of PSR. Maybe we can do a loan deal for numbers. Maybe Amram can play him in some form, because we actually almost signed him 2 years ago. It's like, I'm not going to like cry if we do it because we aren't scoring goals. I'd rather bring in an attacker than no attacker, but for me, Osimhen and Nuno Mendes would just be like my dream right now.
It's interesting because with Kolo Muani, I don't think he's any different to Rashford. I think he shares a lot of similarities with Marcus Rashford, and I don't think he's a out and out 9. He is a player that kind of he can play through the middle, but if you've watched him at PSG over the last 2 seasons or season and a half, he struggles playing through the middle. He with Mbappe on the left of him, he struggled. This season, a couple of games, he struggled to a point where Luis Enrique, who I get Luis Enrique isn't great at profiling players, but he's been playing Dembele as a false 9. He's been playing Desire Doué as a false 9 because he doesn't want to play Kolo Muani. And I do think a lot of people's opinion on Muani is hindered by that miss in the World Cup. People think about that when they think about Muani. But I do think he's a good player. But like you said, I agree. He should only be a kind of signing. Him as a loan signing on top of another striker, I wouldn't be against it. Because United are not really in a position to say no to any sort of attacking reinforcements. I like Victor Osimhen. But my thoughts on like the striker situation in this window, I don't think United should sign a striker just because the striker is available right now. Because you don't want to go into the summer and be like, okay, we need to sign another striker. Well, why did you just sign one in January in that case? And that is my thought on the Vlahovic thing, because there's been reports about a possible swap deal with Joshua Zirkzee. And I don't think United should take Vlahovic just because they want to offload Joshua Zirkzee. I mean, fun fact, guys, for what Joshua Zirkzee's kind of annual net book value would be in terms of his amortization plus his wages, it would still be less than Vlahovic's annual salary that Manchester United would have to account for. That's just a fun fact. So from a PSR perspective, it wouldn't even make any sense, or from a financial perspective. Now, PSR is United's kind of boogeyman right now. I feel like no one can talk about transfers without talking about PSR. But in particular, when it comes to signing a striker, I think the best loophole for United is a loan with obligation to buy. Because if they get, say, for example, Victor Osimhen, if Victor Osimhen is the striker that they want, they could sign him on loan right now. Napoli, United would have to obviously pay some of his wages. And you know what? He actually doesn't earn a lot at Napoli. I don't know if he's on 140,000 euros a week,
so
which is like 110, I think, around that thing.
Because
he was looking for I think he was looking for double that at Chelsea in the summer. That was the problem. But if United are able to get him with a loan on an obligation to buy in the summer, from a financial perspective, that will hit their books in the next financial year on July 1st, which is perfect for Manchester United. I know that there's talks, and we're going to get to it on like the outgoings, but I think they have to kind of be smart. Don't just sign a striker for the sake of it because he's all that's available right now. But one thing I will say is, because we're going to talk about Marcus Rashford, is if United do let Marcus Rashford go and they don't bring in a striker, that is pure negligence. Like, for me, I'm already on Ineos watch. If you don't know, I'm already on Ineos watch, but I'll be on Ineos watch even harder because it would be negligent. And just quickly on Marcus Rashford, David Ornstein mentioned today that Borussia Dortmund are now in the talks to sign Marcus Rashford, as well as AC Milan, Juventus, and other Premier League suitors are all weighing up attempts to sign Marcus Rashford on loan for the rest of the season. Man United are willing to listen to loan offers with an obligation to buy, but essentially it's just getting him out of the door in January. And I'm a big Rashford fan. I love Marcus Rashford, but I've accepted it's the end of the road. I accepted that last month, that it was the end of the road for Rashford. Do you think United should fully focus on selling him in January? Or, because I'm happy with a loan, because I don't think anyone's going to take up $350 a week plus a transfer fee for him in January.
It's a difficult one because I don't like the idea of him going on loan if they're only going to pay a certain amount of his wage, and then we're not going to have the funds to bring someone. And as you said, for me, Rashford going, it can only happen if they've got someone else to bring in. Even if it's Muani on loan, at least there's another body there in attack, because Rashford's our top goal scorer in the Premier League. We're not scoring goals at the moment. And Rashford's out of form, and I like Rashford. I really like Rashford. I really rate the player. I want the old Rashford back at United, but I've accepted a bit like you. At the end of the day, my priority is doing what Amorim wants. I like Rashford. He's one of my favourite players at United, and my dream would be to have Rashford back in form, scoring 30 goals for us, But that's just not going to happen. Rashford, when you see him play, his head's not at United anymore. He's willing to leave. Amorim wants to get rid of him. We've got to sort of part ways with Rashford. That is the situation. And it's a bit of a sad end, but it's what needs to be done. We've got rid of worse players in the past, better players in the past. We need that money in PSR. A loan deal where they're doing pretty much most of the wages, a little bit of a fee up top, which gives us leniency in PSR to at least bring in Muani. I can accept if that is what Amorim wants. If Amorim is done with Rashford and he wants Muani, I can accept that. I think a permanent would be the ideal situation, but then you could say, could we get more money in the summer for him? Should we wait until the summer? You go him out on loan, maybe his value goes up a little bit on loan. There's more suitors in the summer. Maybe in January, people are only willing to bring in 30 odd million. Maybe in summer it's a 40, 50 million thing. You never know. If he's really good in Serie A, it could be more. You never know. I think so. I'm okay with a loan if the funds are there to replace him, but it's not one of those loans where we're getting mugged off and if we're paying like 80% of his wages for him to play for someone else when we're not scoring goals, I'd be like, what are you doing? But if the loan would allow us the funds to bring someone in, and that is what Amorim wants, then I'm going to back what Amorim wants.
Yeah, I agree somewhat, but I do think United will have to take an L regardless financially when it comes to Marcus Rashford. Even in the summer, if they sell him, I think what happened with, I don't know if you remember Wan-Bissaka, United had to pay the difference in salary between what West Ham was offering and what he was on at United, what he was entitled to is contracted. So United have to kind of fork out. So I think they'll find themselves in that situation with Rashford where, say he eventually moves on a permanent to AC Milan or Juve. I don't see Juve on the horizon for him, AC Milan potentially. But if he does go and he signs a 180, 200k salary, United's going to have to fork out the difference, regardless of whether it's in January, in terms of covering some of his salary on a loan move or on a permanent deal in the summer. And it's just very unfortunate the way that it's turned out, especially like before the Liverpool game, United hadn't scored for 3 Premier League games. Every game, it was 3 defeats in a row, three games, no goals. And I'm not saying Marcus Rashford would have come on and, scored a hat-trick in every single game, but it makes me more disappointed in this situation between him and the club, that United are in this predicament and you're just there rotting away. I understand for Liverpool, it was reported that he was ill, but I think, and I actually respect Ruben Amorim a lot, because he made his decision, and he, in slang terms, they say he stood on business. So he stuck to his kind of guns, where he made the decision nearly 3 weeks ago to drop Marcus Rashford out of the squad. He hasn't seen what he's wanted to see. And it's funny because Amorim's first game in charge, he played Marcus Rashford up top, 60 minutes. After the game, he came out and said in his press conference, it took me 60 minutes to realize Marcus Rashford's not a 9. So we'll have to find another place for him in the team. I think that day he realized this guy is not going to fit into my team, and he's given him different opportunities. I think the biggest telling factor for me is when he dropped him against Arsenal, because we always talk about Rashford's record against the Big Six. He's missed 2 Big Six games in the last 3 weeks. So it is safe to say that his future's over at United. And for me, as long as he doesn't go to a Premier League rival, I'll be okay. Like, I'll get over it. But if he goes to like an Arsenal, or he goes to like a Chelsea, or he goes to like a Spurs, I don't think Spurs need him, actually, because they just renewed Son for 1 more year.
Yeah.
But if he goes to a Premier League team, which I hope he has some loyalty to United, and he doesn't do it, I don't think I can get over it. But I know people in the comments already are going to be like, Mina, get over it. We don't care if he goes to Arsenal, because people always say that on the channel, that they don't care if he goes to Arsenal. But on the topic of strikers and potentially other strikers that can leave United, Joshua Zirkzee has been linked as well to a move. David Ornstein has come out this morning as well and suggested that multiple clubs are interested in him, but Joshua Zirkzee is committed to the project at Manchester United. What do you think about the whole Zirkzee thing, and do you think United should just U-turn on their situation with him?
It's difficult because I watched a little bit of Zirkzee at Bologna and I really liked him. I really liked what I saw. I thought that the way players linked off him was good, and I wanted a profile of striker that was different to Højlund. I said back in summer my first choice was Matheus Cunha, but I said if we can't get at him, I'd look at a João Pedro or Zirkzee, because they sort of can drop deeper between like the 10 and the 9. And I think we need, if we're not giving Højlund service, I said I think we need a striker that doesn't potentially need the service. And I said, if we can, Zirkzee, Cunha, João Pedro were the 3 names I named. I said that, Rashford could play off them well. Now, I think Rashford leaving means the purpose of Joshua Zirkzee coming in is definitely a lot lower, and that's maybe something United consider, because I think one of the reasons he was brought in is that he can have Rashford and Rashford can sort of play off him and run in behind, because that's how Zirkzee's sort of used. He likes runners, people to run ahead of him. Now, I think there's definitely an overreaction with Joshua Zirkzee in this fan base. I think like out of all the players we signed, Joshua Zirkzee makes one wrong pass and the outrage is like crazy. And I'm like, look, I know Højlund scored those Champions League goals, but the patience towards Højlund compared to Zirkzee is just like, for me, I think people are a bit over the top with Zirkzee. I think he's 23 years of age and he's been thrown into a new league in an unstable environment. And like, maybe he's just not Premier League ready. He doesn't have that pace. Maybe physically he's not got the pace for the Premier League. And I don't think I thought he could do the 10 role, but I don't think he's got the mobility for that. I think he might be better as a 9 with runners around him. And I think like Højlund long-term closer to Xhaka is better fit for Amorim's system. But I think Zirkzee came on, had a few nice touches versus Liverpool, played in that pass to Maguire, which could have been the winner. Some people say should he have shot. I actually think from that angle, passing was probably the better option, but it did bobble a bit from Maguire. I don't know if it was onside or off. But I'm very much like, I would give Zirkzee to the summer. I think it's quite early to cut ties with him now, especially if Rashford's the priority to get out. Ruben Amorim said he wants Zirkzee to stay. He works well, he works hard. So if that's what Amorim wants, give Zirkzee to the summer. But if we're here in summer and Zirkzee's not done anything the last couple of months, we have to say, well, one thing we've done at this club is we've kept players for too long. And while this club's still interested in Zirkzee, because it's only been a season, Juventus are interested, cut ways in the summer. But I think it's very early to get rid of him in January. I don't even know if it helps with PSR, because if we sign him for 34 million and we sell him for 30 million, is that a 4 million loss for the season? Like, there's other things you got to look at as well. So for me, I would give him to the summer. I think Amorim likes him. I think there's more to see from Zirkzee. He hasn't been convincing. Maybe he isn't Premier League made, but I'd like to just see a bit more of him before I make my mind up.
I think from a PSR perspective, because the way PSR works is your annual accounts or your financial year. Financially, he costs United, I think, about 12 million per year. That's including it's kind of amortizing the transfer fee across his 5-year contract plus his annual salary. So it's about 12.6 million. So if United in the financial year this season, like in January, can get 30 million for him, from a PSR perspective, they're making a profit, but obviously long term it's a loss because they've sold him for less. But from a PSR perspective, it will help, and I think they're trying to investigate or do something similar with Casemiro, sell him for about 30 million because that's how much he costs on an annual basis. I'm kind of the opposite with Joshua Zirkzee. If United are not happy with what they got, I think it's best to just cut ties now, because I think I don't feel like over the last 6 months his value's actually depreciated. So I actually think United could recoup exactly what they paid for him from a Juve, or even I saw Bologna's interested in bringing him back, which is funny because we just gave you 40 million for him and now you want him back. But I think waiting another 6 months where actually his value could decrease over those 6 months, and in the January window, maybe when you would have got 30 million for him, you might get 20 million for him in the summer. I don't know if that's a risk taken. I do agree with you though, with the overreaction with Joshua Zirkzee. I feel like I've been to Old Trafford quite a bit this season, and from the vibe that I get with the crowd at Old Trafford, I think because United are so used to like traditional and typical number 9s, when you bring in a striker, you're expecting someone like Van Nistelrooy, you're expecting someone like even Lukaku, you're expecting someone like Ibrahimovic, someone that's going to be a nuisance in the box, that's going to cause problems for the centre-backs, make runs in behind. You're not expecting someone that is going to be stationary throughout most of the game and drop deep and vacate a lot of space and basically allow the centre-backs to set up a picnic and just lay down on the floor. And I feel like I remember I went to Liverpool versus United at the beginning of the season, and it was a shit show. Excuse my language. The crowd were frustrated with Zirkzee because he wasn't doing anything, and unfortunately, that was like his 4th game at United. I don't even think he had been there for that long. But from that day is kind of when I started to sense, fans are not happy with the product that they've kind of gotten because it's not the typical kind of striker that you're used to. It's kind of like when Jesus said, I don't know if you remember when Jesus said that he does it. I think it was at the beginning of last year, the calendar year, he said something about he's not really a number 9 that scores goals. And Arsenal fans got really upset with that because they were like, but you're a striker. And now he's scoring goals. So it kind of just shows maybe patience pays off. But I do think with Joshua Zirkzee, if United are not happy with it and Amorim is kind of struggling to see how he fits, then it's better to cut ties now rather than waiting another 6 months and then trying to offload him potentially with, his price or his value kind of getting lower within those 6 months. Because if he's not playing or he's not starting, or he is playing and he's not really having impact, teams are not going to be like, oh, okay, it's only been 1 season he's been at United. The teams are going to be like, oh, okay, we'll pay 15 million for him because he's depreciated by half of the value that you guys bought him for. But I do feel sorry for Joshua Zirkzee, and I say this all the time. Joshua Zirkzee is the final piece of the puzzle once you've assembled your squad. Yeah. He's not the piece that you bring in when you're still trying to struggle to find a goal scorer in your team. You're still trying to struggle to build your system. And maybe it was in anticipation of a rival for Amorim. I don't know. But it's also harsh. I see people say all the time, he's going to be the worst signing post Sir Alex Ferguson. And I'm like, are you being serious? We brought Anthony for 100 million. Come on, and the only teams that want him right now is Olympiacos. It's very harsh to say Zirkzee is the worst signing because I don't think he is. But just quickly on Casemiro, reportedly Al Nassr are interested in Casemiro. Just quickly, keep or sell. Are you not worried about the depth in Manchester United's midfield?
I'm a little bit worried about depth, but I think Bruno can play in the pivot. So if you get someone that can play maybe one of the 10 roles, it's not the end of the world. I don't know about Colliem, maybe whoever will go, but I just think with Casemiro's wages, 18 million a year, if we can get him out to Saudi now, I think it's one of those you just do it if the offer is there and you just go with it and just say, look, Bruno, Maino, Agate, we're going to just, run you to the ground and use that money to invest.
Funnily enough, I saw that he's being offered 650k a week. If he doesn't take that, And he's stupid. He's absolutely crazy if he does not take 650k a week. I do kind of realized that I remember a couple of weeks ago that he was playing less under Amorim, so I thought maybe that is United's way of preparing him for an exit. I still feel like I remember when we signed him and there was question marks over his signing, but be honest, I know everybody was gassed. Everyone was excited, I think, when United signed him, even though it was out of the blue and it was off the back of those 2 losses, I think, to Brentford and Brighton. But everyone was excited because you were getting a Real Madrid great. And that first year, what he did for Man United's midfield, I will never forget it. I feel like he was a lot of the time scapegoated, especially last season.
But definitely.
Yeah. But I don't think he helped himself. But also, I don't blame him because playing as a lone 6 in Ten Hag's system was quite suicidal for anybody. Ugarte struggled there, Kobe struggled, everybody struggled.
Amrabat even struggled.
Amrabat struggled, everybody struggled there. So I did kind of feel bad for him. But I do hope if United can sell him, if it's a 25, 30 million, take it, reinvest it in some way, whether it's bringing in a new left wing back. I know we've been linked to Nuno Mendes. We've been linked to Dergu as well. I think that's his name, the young left wing back. We've been linked to, obviously, Quenda as a right wing back. We've been linked to Alphonso Davies as a potential free agent. Do you think United's going to make signings in the January window? And if so, how many?
I think the best case scenario is an attacking reinforcement on loan, and I think a left wing back. There's an opportunity there with Nuno Mendes. Doesn't want to stay at PSG on low wages. Apparently he's open to the United move, but those sources aren't like your tier 1 sources. They're more your tier 2. But apparently he's open to United move and all of that. And I think if United can get the funds, even if it's through a sale of like Casemiro, I think Nuno Mendes is a possibility. I don't see Bournemouth selling Kirkes. So I think if you can't get Nuno Mendes, I wouldn't be surprised if we move for Dorgu, because I think Lecce, as far as I'm aware, have some financial issues. My only worry with Dorgu is he's 19 and he's more of a final piece of the puzzle signing. If he's very good when he's got the good dynamics around him, that good left forward, that good left centre back. Whereas I think he could be great for Amorim's system in like a year or two's time, but I think Nuno Mendes would be the guy that, if he can stay fit, that would probably make impact. Right hand side, I think we'll probably wait to the summer. Maybe we look at Quenda. Some people talk about Dibbling is potentially, I don't know if they're talking about him as right wing back or right 10. I think he could do both. He's a bit sort of profile wise got some similarities to Ahmad. So that could be one to keep an eye on if Southampton get relegated, but there's going to be competition there. But I think we might make a move for a left wing back. I just think I look at how much that position is needed. Even though Shaw's apparently back in 3 weeks, he'll probably get injured again. Like, you can't rely on him.
Yeah.
I think left wing back, and if Rashford goes, it could be Muani on loan or someone on loan. I don't know if we've got the funds to stretch for an Osimhen.
Yeah, I think if United, I agree with you. I think United will make one signing. If we're lucky too, but Victor Osimhen, that's my dream signing for the January window, but it's not realistic. I think he's got like a 70 million price tag, 70 million euros, which is like 63 million pounds. And I know he's got a rough situation with the Napoli director right now because of everything that happened in the summer. I think, I see left wing back. I think there'll be outgoings in January. I think Rashford will leave. I think Cass will leave. I think Anthony might leave as well. Joshua Zirkzee is one that we'll keep an eye on, though. But last but not least, we got a trip to the Emirates on the weekend. We were speaking off stream, and Alice, you were saying you feel quite confident.
Yeah, that might bite me because whenever I feel confident, we lose. Whenever I think we're going to be crap, we perform. And whenever I think, you know what, I fancy us, we then just put in a stinker. But Arsenal don't have Saka. Wanyeri's now out. And they've had this illness bug. They've got to play tonight, so they're going to have less rest than us. Arteta doesn't take cup games as seriously as the league as well. I thought when we went to the Emirates for 45 minutes, I know we never looked like scoring, but we haven't looked like scoring a lot. And that's the biggest problem with Arsenal's defence, and that's not looking like scoring. It's the only thing that worries me. But I thought defensively, if we play like we did versus Liverpool, unless we are just crap from set pieces again, I don't see Arsenal scoring goals. I don't at the moment. Like, I've watched Arsenal play and they're a good side and they're good defensively, but actually they don't take those risks or have that killer when you break down a low block. And I think if we go there with that approach last time, that approach versus Liverpool, we could frustrate them massively. The only thing is for me is we've got to score. We've got to score. And at the moment, it's like, you just don't know. But I think they're gettable, and I think Arteta could rotate as well, and they've got a lot of players out.
Yeah, I think I agree with the rotation part. I'm not too fussed about how far United get in the FA Cup. I know that we won it last year. I'm not too fussed because I just want the season to end as soon as possible. But the Emirates is never an easy kind of destination for United to go to. I can't remember the last time we've actually won. I think the last time was the FA Cup when we knocked them out. I think that's when Lingard was dancing. I think that's actually the last time that we've beat them. And the last couple of seasons, we've been going there, conceding 2 goals, 3 goals. Set piece, they will be a threat, and we know that. I think it's about... My biggest worry when it comes to set pieces is not just even how Arsenal set up. It's the fact that it seems like teams are targeting Onana with a ball in directly to his area kind of situation where it's... Because, I don't know if you realize, I feel like Onana, when it comes to catching the ball, he's quite confident. But when it comes to him punching the ball away, he scares me a little bit. He looks like he's going to punch a player or something. So I'm just worried about that element of set pieces, as well as obviously Arsenal being a threat. But you're right, they're missing Bukayo Saka, they're missing Wanyeri. Obviously, Jesus is in goal-scoring form right now. You've got Martinelli, who actually I think got on the score sheet as well. It's going to be an interesting one. It's definitely going to be an interesting one. It could be like a 1-0, someone nicks it, a 2-1, someone nicks it. But I'm not as confident as you are, just because I need to see like 3-4 games of regular kind of football and consistency before I start to think, okay, maybe we're starting to turn a corner. But listen, guys, make sure you lot hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Alice, listen, let them know where they can find you. I'm going to put all her socials down below as well in the bio. But let them know where they can find you, and if you're doing a stream over the week.
Yeah, big up Minna. Thanks for having me on. Everyone show her some love. Just Alice Talks Football if you want United content. Twitter, sometimes TikTok, although I'm not very good at posting on there. And YouTube, I do daily streams, just talking about the transfer news and just whatever waffle comes out. And then, just a bit of waffle, bit of Man United talk. Thank you very much.
There you go, guys. Make sure you lot follow her. Make sure you lot subscribe. Go show her some love. Listen, I'll be back as well tomorrow. So make sure you lot hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe and comment down below who you lot think United could end up signing by the end of the January transfer window. It's Minna, it's Alice. We're out, guys. Peace.